It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Montana, a worker placement game and building game in which you are, of course, gathering goods by deploying your workers and then using those goods to deploy your settlements in Montana, trying to get them all out onto the board. You do that first, you win the whole thing. I'm going to show you how this works. We'll come on back after that and I'll tell you if I think this game does that well. Here we go. In the game, each time it is your turn, you are going to do one of three things. You are going to recruit, work, or build. But seeing as to build is the way in which you win the game, I'm going to start there and we'll show you what the other ones are. So, to build, you are going to build on this board, which is different sizes and modular depending on the number of players, and you are going to be building these tiles you've got. Again, the number of these is based on the number of players, using the resources you've gathered in the rest of the game. There's a starting tile from which you will have to start building, but after there are some tiles on the board, you can really build up next to any one of them. And so if some previous players have perhaps built there and someone built there, then I am allowed to build anywhere next to those, obviously not in the mountains as they are blocked off pieces, blocked off sections of the board. In order to do this, I am going to pay the necessary resources as listed on the board. So if I want to build right here, I'll pay this combination 2 and 2, and I can put one of my tiles there. And the way you win the game is by running out of these. That's it. Whoever runs out of these first is going to be the winner of the game. And I can build up to 3 times on my turn. So that's one build. If I want to build again, then I could spend, let's say these 2 and one of the pumpkins, and I could build there. And I could even build a 3rd time. For each time you don't build, so let's say I only build 2 times, not 3, for that 3rd possible build, I could get a coin instead from the game. And you'll see what you do with those in just 1 second. So that's basically how that works. Couple of different things here. If you ever are able to build 4 in a line, meaning this has already been built, and I build this spot here, which is actually exactly what I've got left. So assuming this was the board state and I build with these resources, well, I get to add a 2nd tile right on top of that one. Still counts as a single build, but I'm burning through these faster, which is what you're attempting to do. Whoever gets rid of all these first is the winner of the game. That's how you do the build. Let's take a look at the other actions in the game. Each player is going to have in front of them a player board, which is going to help you organize everything and understand how the game works. So you'll have a space for the cows here. You can trade these in for a certain bonus in-game. You have the workers. You're going to be sending those out to work and get you resources. Space for your money, the 4 different resources across the bottom. And then across the top here, you have the different actions you can take. And so I've already shown you this one here, which is build. And as you can see, 4 in a line gets you a bonus. If you don't build a 2nd or a 3rd time, you get some money back. I'm going to be showing you now this one, which is recruit, how you get more of these workers. Okay, and that, I'm going to move these out of the way, is done with this apparatus right here, spinner. You are going to spin this, making sure it goes around at least a full revolution, and whatever it's pointing at when it stops, you are going to get those workers. So in this case, I would get one of these workers here, and one of these workers here. After that, I may pay some grain to move the needle an extra space. 1 grain per move, up to 7 times, and wherever it stops, then I'm going to get those 2 workers as well. So I always get 2. I might get 4 if I pay some grain. In this case, these 2 here are wild. They can be anything I want them to be. So a single grain will suffice. I'll move them over, and I'll take any 2 I want, and I'll also put those in my on my player board. Again, you need to use the player board because it does denote that you have a limit of workers that you can accumulate. So that's basically how that works. Spin, gather workers, pay some grain to possibly gather a couple more workers. And lastly, we have this action here in which you'll send these workers to work and get you the rest of these things, some resources. While this board might look a little complicated at first, it's really quite simple. There are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas on here, and they function, almost all of them, exactly the same way. So you can send people here, 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 or here to gather you goods. You're going to get copper, stone, grain, or pumpkins, respectively. There are several different places for each, and you are going to send the appropriate worker, put it on the matching spot. In this case, I could put him there, and it'll allow me to make that conversion. In this case, this one says I pay 3 coins, I get 2 copper. I can send another worker to this neighboring space to get 1 more copper. So I have to send one here. If I intend to make that exchange, I can send another one here if I would like that exchange to be a little bit better. In that case, 3 for 3, as long as I put 2 workers there. You could also replace any one of these workers with 2 other workers that don't happen to be the right type. So I could send 2 here for that extra one, or I could have even sent 2 here for the original trade-off. And all 3 of these spaces work the same way. 1 coin for 1, 3 coins for 2, 6 coins for 3, always allowing for that extra space. These spaces are going to stay filled until they have all been taken. And so let's say that's what happened, and then later on, let's say it is my turn. I do this conversion here, 6 coins, 3 copper, and once I finish that transaction, we clear all 3 of these off. This works the exact same way for the ore, or the stone, rather. This works the exact same way for the grain, pumpkins down here. Here you get money. You can send any one worker for 6 coins, 2 for 8, 2 for 10, 3 for 12. And again, once they're all filled, that's when they finally clear off. And the only other space is this big one here, which is called the city. And you have a unique worker for that. Not one of these that you gather with the spinner, but rather one in your player color. And when you choose to do that action, you are going to, first of all, you get a pumpkin for being the one who triggers the action, and then you sort of do an auction. You are going to take your worker, you're going to put it anywhere in here you want, and you are saying, I'm willing to pay that many pumpkins to get that power. The other players after you, they'll put their worker somewhere, and if someone outbids you, if they go after you, well, you'll have to move. You can outbid them again, you can go somewhere else, whatever. All right, that's how that works. And then you pay your pumpkins, you get whatever is next to it. So you might get some resources, you might upgrade some resources, and upgraded resources are simply larger than the original ones. So it's, you can upgrade one of these to the larger one, and some spaces on the board will require them. That's basically what they do. That's it. That's how this all functions. So to take a look at the bigger scheme, you are gathering workers by spinning the spinner. You are sending those workers out here to get you money, the 4 different goods, possibly some tricky conversions, and then you are using those resources to build on the board, trying to put all of your settlements out into play first. Very simple concept, as long as you understand sort of how it all plays together. So that's it for me down here. Let's go back up to the table and let me tell you what I thought about Montana. All right, so there you have it. That is Montana. Let's talk about it. We're going to start with thematic ties. I think the theme here is well done. It's nicely implemented. It's not exciting necessarily to me, but I know a lot of people do like this sort of theme. And I think the game uses the theme well. Everything makes sense, You are getting more workers. You are using those workers to get you goods. You use those goods to build. Okay. That's all. That all makes sense. And in fact, even turning money into goods makes sense. Many other games turn other goods into goods. And while that's okay too, it just requires an extra little leap in your head to figure out, how do I turn clay into, tulips or whatever. That doesn't, how does that work? So this one, thematically, is fine. The aesthetics of the game and the quality of the components, I think, are very nice. I like the look of the game a lot, and the components are very well done. Everything works as it should. Those player boards especially are fantastic, and that's something the game didn't even really need, because they go above and beyond, right? I mean, they got a spot for every one of your goods. They have spots for your workers. They have across the top a cheat sheet, which is a very good one. Tells you everything in the game. So I like that quite a bit. The replayability and scalability of the game. I think the scalability is fine. The game board, the board size scales based on the number of players, and that's cool. Works okay. It's modular too, which is nice. And then the replayability is kind of tricky for me because I don't actually think this game is that replayable. While you have a modular board, and that's nice, and it is sort of a slightly different puzzle each time that you are, different things you need to figure out, you do the same sort of things from game to game, and there's really not that many different things, Like I said, you got the 3 options. 2 of those are basically really easy. Even the third one is not so bad, right? But I mean, gathering workers, that's a very simple thing you do. And sending people out to the spots, the worker placement part of the game, you have really just a couple of different spaces for, that are replicated for the other goods. So that's it. It's a very simple game. The replayability, I don't think ultimately is there. I don't think this is a game that's going to have a ton of staying power, That's sort of my fear with it. The game length, very good. It does not outstay its welcome whatsoever. It's a quick game. It gets right to it. You can build something pretty soon in the game. It doesn't have a long build, and then you finally, a long gathering, and then you finally build something on the board. No. This game moves along. And so I like that very much. And I like the way the game ends. There's no scoring. There is no dealing with, this many points for each sheep, or this many points for each cow. You build. And when you are done building, you win if you do it before anyone else, right? Equal turns, all that stuff. So I like that very much for the game length and sort of the style of play. The ease of play, which is fiddliness, if there's any problems with weird design choices, anything seem off. I don't think so. Everything works fine. I like the spinner for the worker placement, the gathering the workers. I think that's cool. It works fine. I know a lot of people seem to have an issue with that because it is a spinner and it gives them flashbacks to bad games from their childhood, but it makes sense, a spinner, because you can pay the grain to keep turning it, and that works. So good. It's a neat idea. The worker placement stuff works just fine. Building on the board is very nice. Some of the spots on the board give you cows, which are printed on there. You're supposed to put them on there, though I didn't for the overview. Some of the spots give you canteens, and those give you a special power in-game. Both very simple, okay? You trade in a cow for a good or a coins or whatever, and the canteen, you cash it in, you take another turn. That's it. They're very simple. But it does have a lot of ease of play, so that is high. And then lastly, tactics and strategy, and of course luck. They're there. You are ideally hoping to put a bunch of these things on the board. The ways to do that are by putting 4 in a line, so you can deploy an extra one for free. People will see you doing that, of course, and they'll try to cut you off, try to stop you from doing it. You wait too long gathering resources, and the thing you were actually gathering for is covered. So there is tension there when it comes to that. You're hoping to gather the goods you need, deploy the thing where it goes before someone covers you up. Don't wait around too long. There's that push and pull between, do I gather enough goods to build 1, 2, 3 all at once? It's a single action. That's good. Or do I gather enough to build 1 or 2 spots, but at least they're not taken before it's my turn, and I know what I'm gathering for? Do I have a backup plan if those are gone? If there's somewhere else in the buildable area that I can use the same resources for? Cool. I like that too. So the whole thing works well. All of that to say that I find the game enjoyable. My main issues with it are that I think it's, 2 things. I think the replayability is ultimately not there. The game feels samey from game to game to game to game. I don't think it's going to have a ton of shelf life, right? And then the other thing, which is really unrelated, but I want to mention it, is that I think the game is going to be, it's going to misdirect people. It looks like the kind of game I keep comparing it to, sort of, offhanded, in my offhanded comments about trade this for that, and only a couple of different places to send your workers, that sort of thing. It looks like an Agricola. It looks like a heavy worker placement game. It looks like there's a lot going on in it. There's not. It's a really simple game. You look at it set up on the table, and you are thinking, this is a heavy Euro game. It's not. This is about mid-weight Euro game. Maybe lighter than that if you consider Agricola not super heavy, right? So I'm worried that the people who are attracted to it will play it and go, this is like a little filler. And I'm worried that the people who would actually like this game would look at the cover and go, this isn't my kind of game. That's a concern. And so I'm hoping that if you do see this and you see the overview, you'll fall into one of the two camps and either get it or avoid a game you perhaps didn't like. But more so than not, I'm hoping I'll turn people on to it that perhaps would have overlooked the game. I liked it. Again, my main thing being, I'm not sure about the replayability, but I enjoy the process. I like what you do in the game. I love that scoring just basically isn't there. That's great. I like using my little workers to gather the stuff, build up. That's fun. I enjoy the process in the game. So, having said all of that, this one is going to get it just scrapes into a seal of approval for me. If you are someone who is okay with a game kind of being samey from game to game, I think you're going to dig it. If you enjoy the gathering resources and cashing them in a fairly light, simple setting, I think you're also going to dig it. If you're someone who likes really heavy Euro games, perhaps this is too simplistic for you. Okay? So, having said all that, again, seal of approval for Montana. Check it out, folks.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.